This is such a huge topic that so many people are trying to draw attention to. I remember last year, January 1st, Lewis House posted, the best thing you can do for yourself this year is learn how to regulate your emotions. Every one of the comments was like, but how, but how, but how? And it's so painful for me because I just want to wave a big flag that's like, I know how.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Badass Softie, a podcast for leaders who are unapologetically ambitious and want to lead with heart because you're allowed to chase big goals without losing what makes you human. I'm Dr. JJ Peterson, and I am so excited for you to hear this conversation today. My friend Tera Wages works with leaders, entrepreneurs, individuals who are looking to do the emotional work inside and identify what might be holding them back from connection, from doing the big work in their business, from connecting with their family. All the things that sometimes internally will hold us back from doing big things and, spoiler, often hurt people when we don't work on it. And she helps and coaches people through the process of connecting with those emotions and how to move forward. So I loved this conversation. You're going to hear a little bit of me becoming a bit vulnerable in all of this, and you're going to learn some big things that you can actually hold on to very tangibly to take away if you are in that space of like, yeah, I need to work through some things that I'm dealing with myself. Well, today's conversation is incredible. So I'm so excited for you to hear my conversation today with Tera Wages. Tera, I am so excited you're here, but before we get into our conversation, I just want to introduce you a little bit to our audience. So, listeners, I need you to know that the first time that I met Tera, I genuinely feel like it was like a soul connection. It was one of those things where we had not met and we were working on a project together. And we were creating a certification for a thought leader, and you were the presenter of it. And I remember being in that room the first time you were on camera, because again, we'd not worked together. So I was like, what? How's this going to work? And Bobby, our producer, as soon as you started talking, Bobby just turned around and went, like jaw dropped. And we're like, oh, this is magic already. So that was the first piece. But what then really drew me in was, and I was like, oh, we need to do more together, is finding out, because we brought you in because you are a coach, you are a female entrepreneur, you are a business leader, you have started multiple businesses, you help other people start businesses. But the area that you're working in right now is in really emotional intelligence and helping leaders connect with their emotions so they can be better leaders of themselves and their teams. And not just business leaders. You work with obviously a lot of different people. But when I heard that, I was like, well, Badass Softie. I mean, that is it, of where going in and helping people be emotionally connected, but also for the purpose of helping them do better in life and in business and everything. And so I have been so looking forward to this conversation. And so I just want to say thank you for being a part of this and for being with us today.
Oh my gosh, it is truly my joy to be with you today. Before you reached out to me for the project, about a week before, you had posted something on LinkedIn, and I was like, I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond to Dr. JJ Peterson on LinkedIn, and maybe he won't think I'm a weirdo. And so then when everything aligned, it just felt like the universe just pulling all of the people into the room that needed to be there. Yeah. And I was honored. I just keep thinking, thank you for letting me be a person in the room.
It was so fun. And thank you for, crushing it. But why I wanted you to be here today, because I just, again, anytime we can spend time together, it makes me really happy. But you are doing what I think is some of the most important work right now for people in business. When I think back to where we have been over the past 5 years in culture, society, like going back to pre-pandemic, but really starting in pandemic is where I would say is a strong marker, where people, the way we lived our lives was different. The way we started doing business was different. And then we entered into a space politically that was incredibly charged, not only in America, but around the world. Right. And then there's technology that's changing things. I mean, we have AI, we have Zoom, we have all of these different things that have changed the way we have to show up in the world. And also just all the research is showing us we're incredibly disconnected from other people and ourselves. And so this work that you're doing is so powerful to me, and I'm so excited to learn more about it. But What got you into it? Like, how did you get to this space of where you're like, oh, I need to help people do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a similar story as most of your audience listening of entrepreneur that's just thrown their lives into what they're building. And I can remember pre-pandemic, a specific time of sitting in my office, and I just got off the call booking the dream client. And at that point, our business was booming. We had more money than we'd ever made. And I was burnt out. I was feeling like all of the threads inside of me were being pulled because I was a mom of young kids. I worked full time with my husband. We were leading this team, and there just wasn't enough of me to go around.
Nobody else feels that way. So this is why it's a super unique story that I have you here. But because
Exactly.
nobody ever feels
Exactly.
I can hear everybody like nodding their head. You know, like their
Yes.
head is nodding so hard their brain is shaking.
Yes.
Because they're probably feeling the same thing.
Absolutely. And then the pandemic stopped everything. Within 24 hours, my husband and my business lost over $100,000. Every project we had on the books was canceled with the exception of one. And we were scrounging, how are we going to not just feed our family, but our team?
Yeah.
And from that, one of our former clients reached out and said, hey, my marriage and family therapist is going to host something on Zoom. Would you be willing? Like, you're invited if you want to come. And typically I say no to things like that. I am a late adapter. But my husband, he was like, Tera, we don't have anything else to do. Let's just join in on these calls. And our background was creating content for authors and entrepreneurs outside of the book. I mean, we've worked with some of the most incredible leaders, thought leaders of this time. And when we joined that call, it was like every light bulb in my body went off of, this is something different that I'd never seen before. They were actually teaching me how to not only connect with myself, but how to connect with my husband, with my children, and my team in a way that we can not just show up to work, burnt out, but how we can thrive in our mission and what we're creating. And it gave me this confidence that I'd never had before. My husband and I stopped fighting. Last night we were laying in bed and I was like, Wes, like, there are couples that are still fighting. Like, that's the norm for people.
Yeah.
Like, I've forgotten what that was like because now we have tools to communicate with each other. And so I told him we need to use our skills of helping these entrepreneurs get their message out and go into this company and do the same for them. And so I started partnering with these founders, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill, taking their message out into the world, out of these private one-on-one meetings so everyone can have access to them.
It's so important, and we're going to dive into kind of the various. We're going to get real specific here.
Yes,
we're going
let's
to go deep on this stuff, and I'm actually going to have you do some work on me in the midst of this as we're going to talk about it, because one, I want this,
Yeah.
and two, I think a lot of people think when it comes to emotions, well, it's about controlling them,
Yeah.
right? So it's, oh, you get angry, control your anger, or you get sad, control your sadness, or don't be too happy, because if you're too happy, and so it's not about understanding the emotions or where they come from and some of the work that you do, but really let me have the tools to control.
Yes.
And I know even in my own life, there have been seasons, especially in my unhealth, where I have controlled my emotions. And a lot of times that's for survival. You have to do that in moments of trauma, or for survival, you kind of have to work through the world in a different way. But I think for people who really want to live ultimately with some more freedom and better relationships with their clients and their team members and their spouses, that for those of us who now might go, okay, I don't want to live in survival mode anymore. I don't want to just push things down just to get through. I actually have to connect, because there's a danger in pushing down and controlling those emotions.
Right. Well, a lot of the times we think we need to control them because we are confusing what an emotion actually is, which is a biochemical response to a problem that's happening in our body. We view it as the behavioral response. So we think about sadness of somebody's just in their room crying, over something. That's actually not sadness. That's the response to what is happening inside their body. And even in that, sadness is not the problem. It's just simply the gauge on our car. My husband's car caught on fire this summer, and
Wait, this is not a metaphor?
It is not
real?
a metaphor. This literally happened.
Sure.
He was driving through Colorado, and the heat meter went up. Mm-hmm. He immediately pulled over, realized it was on fire, got the kids out, got the fire extinguisher, all these things. Where I tend to ignore those gauges in my car. I don't even look at them. The car would have been dead. It would never have existed again if I had been in the driver's seat. And so we think that the gauge is the issue, but it's just highlighting, hey, there's a deeper problem here you need to tune into. But along the way in our life, we stopped learning to tune into that problem. As little kids, they're running down the street, they fall and hurt their leg. Our instinct from a good heart is, you're okay. Because as the mom, I know they're okay. But to them, no, their leg is bleeding. They are not okay. And so in that moment, their body is firing hurt, probably shame for falling in front of their friends, fear of what's happening with their leg, all of these emotions at one time. And I'm telling them to ignore those emotions. And so then as these like little humans, we grow up thinking, oh no, I just need to be okay all the time. Yeah. And it gets us into these really sticky situations where even in those moments of trauma, the trauma hits even more extremely because we can identify what's actually happening. Loneliness isn't being in a room all by myself. Loneliness is the message of, I need support and connection. And when we can't view it as that, then we live in a space of life that's really detrimental to our health, to our well-being, our relationships, and how we show up.
And I think at some point, if you have any kind of self-awareness and growth, that you realize that, but a lot of people still don't have the tools. And I put myself in that. I'm a fan of therapy. I'm a fan of, getting down to the root of a lot of things. But there's still, even I would consider myself fairly aware, but there's still moments that I'm like, but now what? So I know that this is not great. What do I do with it? Yeah. Besides maybe just, not that therapy is bad, like besides just going to therapy, there's got to be some other things that I can do in combination with those other tools that can actually help me and my team and my family in the day to day. And that's what you do. So I want to hear about this a little bit more deeply.
Absolutely. And this is such a huge topic that so many people are trying to draw attention to. I remember last year, January 1st, Lewis House posted, the best thing you can do for yourself this year is learn how to regulate your emotions. And every one of the comments was like, but how? We all know we need to do this, but no one knows how. And it's so painful for me because I just want to wave a big flag that's like, I know how, I can help you. And it's all because Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created a tool. Yeah. The issue is that as that 7-year-old kid, that 3-year-old kid, we stopped learning to identify the emotion because we were told to ignore it. And so now as adults, we just need to relearn how to identify the emotion because we lost touch with it. They went to the back of the brain and we need to reaccess them. And so we do that. Dr. Glenn spent so much time studying how emotions fire in our brain and what our core emotions are. And he realized in his research that we have 8 core emotions. And when we can actually relearn what they feel like in the moment, we can name it and process it right then.
What I'm picking up right now is the difference between identifying and regulating, right?
Yes.
So, because when we, even, when he posted that and said, you need to regulate your emotion, what a lot of people think is regulating the action that's associated with the emotion. And you're saying we actually have to go back earlier and identify what ultimately we might regulate the action. Like if you're angry and typically you would throw something at a wall, let's regulate that action, but let's actually go back deeper and identify the emotion associated with the action.
Absolutely, because more than likely something else happened before the anger.
Mm-hmm.
And once we can learn what the emotions, the messages are. So for anger simply means there's a problem. I need to power up for action. And anger is actually my favorite emotion. I love it so much because it is what moves us into action, because often there's another emotion underneath it and we ignore that other emotion. For me, I realize that I tend to get angry when I feel shame or when I feel fear. Those 2 emotions send me to anger faster than anything. But if I'm only trying to regulate the anger and not identifying the fear. I'm going to have that same fear tomorrow, and I'm going to get angry again tomorrow over the same thing because I didn't get to the root. My husband, his is guilt. Guilt sends him into anger so fast. And so it's been fascinating to learn this even with our own home, how this shows up. And so step one to regulation is to identify, to actually access the emotion, identify, ooh, I'm feeling shame right now. Oh, what is this shame trying to tell me? And then we can go further into that. Now at this point, I can say, oh, is this a shame I need to tune into? Is this something I actually do need to show up better as? Or is this a message from somebody else? Is there a thought that I need to rewire? I've been able to rewire a lot of my thoughts now because I can identify the emotion first. So yeah, identifying is the key.
So if I'm putting this on me for a second here, I have realized recently that when anger shows up in me, a lot of times it's around anxiety. Is anxiety one of the 8?
So anxiety is a mixture of emotions.
Okay.
And it shows up different for everyone, which is why when we use more complex words, like if I say I'm feeling overwhelmed, my overwhelm looks different from your overwhelm. So we can't connect over that. But if I say, ooh, feeling a lot of fear, I have a huge project this week, guilt because I'm behind on that task, and shame that I'm not going to do a good job, your brain literally knows what that feels like. And so now we can connect over this.
Interesting. Okay, so let's even go into that for me a little bit. So anger shows up with me when I have what I would call anxiety. And I think then if I'm really, I'll bring one that maybe other people deal with right now is money. What I realize is on sales calls in particular, somebody asks me the question, how much do you charge? And I start to get anxiety first. And I've realized to myself then anger is part of that. And so if I'm really thinking in it, that it's a little bit deeper around money and it's coming down to some value of like, am I worth it or not? And I want to prove to you I'm worth what I'm about to charge, or I'm embarrassed. I think because, growing up, I was a pastor's kid. I was a missionary kid. So there's a lot of kind of shame and fear to some degree around money. That you shouldn't ask for money. You shouldn't need something more than, so like, if I told my parents what I charge 20 years ago, that there's probably some shame in that, that if I'm really thinking through, wow, we're going pretty deep here. But the reality is, I think like if I'm really tracing back, like the end result for me is anger, and I kind of get short with not necessarily the person on the phone call or Zoom, but with my family after. That it's also coming from anxiety, which probably if I really dig deep, it actually lands in some shame around money issues that were voices maybe from my family and my religious past, and also my own shame wrapped up in value and worth. Is that?
Yes, you are spot on. That's exactly.
Should we hug now? Because I kind of feel like we're going there for this all for the listener, because I want people to be able to identify this stuff.
Oh, and that's such a great example because so many people are experiencing that, and you nailed it. That I deeply identify with that, the shame of it, and so that's a shame of when I get to the root of it. Okay, this is old messaging. So this is messaging that I need to rework on that thought around this messaging, where otherwise you just feel, I'm angry, I'm going to come home, I'm going to snap at my partner, I'm going to snap at my kids, and then tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing, versus realizing, I feel shame that I'm not valuable here. And what I love about shame is,
that sentence alone, it makes me really happy we're having this conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
That sentence alone. What I love about shame, because you don't hear that conversation. So keep going. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, because we will say, ignore your shame. Just stuff it down. But we can't. One of the big light bulb moments for me in learning about emotions is that emotions happen to us. We don't get to control when they fire, but we do get to control what happens next. And so for shame, I can't sit here and tell my brain, never feel shame again. It's going to happen. So instead, knowing what it's needing from me. So the message of shame is, I am flawed or unworthy. So I'm unworthy of this person paying me this cost, this price for this. The need of shame is, I need love and support. So to be able to share with our partners, to share with our spouses, feeling a lot of shame about this sales call every time I say the price. And for them to tune into, ooh, what's happening with that shame? I feel unworthy. I feel like I'm not good enough. And now they can meet you there. Yeah. They can speak that love. They can speak that support into you. We can speak that love into ourselves and tell ourselves who we actually are instead of feeling the shame, drown in the shame, get angry, dysregulate our home, do it again tomorrow.
So you said there were 8 kind of core emotions. What we've named some of them, but what are those core emotions?
Okay. We have anger, my favorite, shame, guilt, which guilt is I've done something. It's an action, or I need to change my expectation around something. Fear, which is our protector. Loneliness, I need support or connection. Sad, I need to acknowledge loss. Hurt, I need to move away from the pain source and eliminate this pain. And joy, I need pleasure to thrive. Give me more of this. Yes.
So when we can identify those, then as root causes of all of this stuff, and I like the way you're phrasing. So I would say that a lot of the emotions you named are historically or traditionally viewed as negative.
I was waiting on that.
Right? Like we have joy, which is like, we all can go like, yeah, I want more joy. I want to live in joy. And almost like, Inside Out, it's like the movie, it's like, oh, everybody's trying to just live only in joy when we have all these other emotions.
Right.
And you named a lot that I would say, traditionally be targeted as negative. And yet you framed those in a sense of a protection piece. Like, I need to get away from this. That's a warning light to say, this is when you feel hurt, there may be something you need to move away from to protect you. When you feel shame, it might be about something deeper, some old voices that are speaking to you, or something that's going on that in some cases I think it can be helpful and just like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this because it could be dangerous for me.
Yep.
And so that's kind of interesting to me that you didn't name a bunch of other positive traditional ones. You named a lot of what we would consider negative.
Yes. And so these are actually found in brain scans. So when you are looking at emotions and how they're firing, it shows up in different parts of our brain. And joy, Dr. Glenn argues, is actually the most dangerous emotion when left unprocessed, because people cheat on their spouses out of a place of joy. I will have that extra glass of wine out of a place of joy. I will buy things I should not be buying out of a place of joy. And so joy can lead to really harmful behaviors when we don't have it in check, especially if the other behaviors are also yelling at us and we're ignoring them. And the other emotions, while yes, they're deemed, negative, shame shows me I need love. That's driving me to a place of joy. Fear keeps a roof over my kids' heads. It keeps us from running out into the street. And loneliness is the most damaging emotion to our health. Living in chronic loneliness is as bad as smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. And extensive research has been done on the damage of loneliness. But we don't know what loneliness actually is. I need connection and support. Our leaders, our entrepreneurs, they need to be deeply connecting with other people. They are living so isolated because there's so much on their shoulders. Their families don't understand what they do. LinkedIn has finally clicked for me. It's where you actually get to go to Thanksgiving dinner and say, hey, I did this really cool project next week, and people understand it,
Yeah.
And we're living so lonely, and we view it as, well, I was in a room all day with everyone. No, you need support. Yeah. And so each of these emotions, when you get to the guide of it, when you get to the signal of it, it is there to move us into motion, into a place of connection.
I love that. So first, just kind of identifying those. So once we identify maybe the root of our behavior that's drawn from these emotions, what then, your work really is in helping people regulate, but really kind of process the emotions in a way that actually helps them and moves them forward. So kind of what's the next phase after identifying it?
Yeah. So the next phase is to actually name it. And if you can say it out loud to yourself, but when we can co-regulate, if I'm feeling fear about this big launch that I'm about to do, and I can go to my husband or my business partner, say, I'm having a lot of fear, I burn 80% less energy. I save energy by co-regulating with a safe person. And then being able to say it out loud, studies have shown that it reduces the intensity in your brain. So many people say, oh, don't ignore your fear. Like, don't say it out loud because you're going to make it grow. We think the boogeyman is going to get bigger in the closet. But when we actually look at a brain scan, when we say the word fear, I'm having fear about, our brain calms down. It literally reduces the intensity. And then to say it to a safe person, then I can typically work through to the other side of that fear. What am I actually needing to do in this moment to feel safe again? And so, yeah, it is accessing the emotion, identifying, saying it out loud. Yeah.
I mean, it's, again, part of why therapy is so good. But I've even realized that in my own life, in those seasons where I have had panic attacks, which I have, that when I actually am living in the shame of that, because I feel like I should be more able to be more in control of my emotions. Yeah. When I live in the shame of that, it only increases them. And literally speaking about it to somebody and saying, hey, something's going on in my body that it's telling me I'm not processing the emotions maybe from now or in the past in a way that I should be. I have not identified them. I have not named them. And so when I start by naming even just that, the behavior that, or the way my body is showing up in that to my partner or to a therapist or to somebody else, the panic attacks themselves start to decrease. And so there's obviously, I love that there's science behind it because that's kind of my world of the research and stuff. And to be able to say that has been such a powerful tool for me, but it's not often, people don't often, again, feel safe in their work environments to do that. So how do then, when you're coaching and working with teams, how do you help them identify, name, and then move into space that we can actually talk out loud about this, because that's helpful with our teams in a way that's productive?
So one, we teach the other person how to be safe too, because that's also an element that we have lost. Oftentimes somebody will say, oh, I feel guilt that I was late on this. And our response is, oh no, don't feel guilt about that. There's no reason to feel guilt. They can't help that they feel guilt. And it's actually helping their body to say it out loud, compared to, oh, what's happening with that? And so we teach that curiosity element to the other person of how to help the person get to the other side on their own. If I tell you how to feel, or if I tell you what to do next time you're going to need somebody to direct you again, versus me prompting you to get curious about yourself. That's what will move you forward the next time you need to make a decision and you don't have someone sitting next to you. And so we train teams on how to build that curiosity, how to be safe and validate the other person's experience, and then to get to the need of what they're feeling to know, how does this affect our team? What do we need to shift? Okay, are we all burning out about this same project? Okay, let's get curious about this project. What's happening here? What elements are working or not working? And then also, that's where mirroring is really amazing. I love our brains. It's so cool that if I say that I'm having fear about something, the fear region of your brain highlights. You can mirror that. Instead, if I said, I'm feeling confused, you actually don't know. Like, your brain doesn't highlight anything because that's a complex emotion. Or the word upset, I use that a lot because for someone, the word upset, hey, I'm upset about this project. That could be loneliness and shame. But for me, if I say upset, it could be fear and anger. It looks very different for people. So teaching people how to actually use their words effectively, where your brain's going to highlight and register what they're actually saying. We're not reading between the lines anymore. We're not being passive aggressive with our teams anymore. We can just get to the root of where we need to go in a short amount of time.
I love that mirroring aspect. I did that this morning with my son. Yes. So we were driving to school and he was clearly having a tough morning. And I don't know why, he probably has a lot of emotions, probably some sleep stuff, and at breakfast, everything was fine. And we got in the car and he started expressing all of the things, like he was talking about how, he's sad he doesn't get to use his backpack this year because they have like these folders instead, so he doesn't need it. And, his water bottle is leaking. And he just starts listing all this stuff. And instead of trying to bring him out of it, I just said, you're having a hard morning, aren't you? And just acknowledging and saying, like, I'm hearing you're having a hard morning. And he's like, yeah, I am. And I just said, but that's okay. We all have hard mornings. My gut was, hey, but you're going to do this. And my gut was to go to joy, because it's like, I tend to be in that space. It's just like, but think about what you're getting. Tonight's Cub Scouts and we're doing date night tonight with our kids. So he's going to Chuck E. Cheese with my husband and I'm going to a nice restaurant with our daughter. And so I'm like, but tonight's date night and tonight you're going to go to Cub Scouts after. And that's where my gut wanted to go. Yeah. And instead I just paused because somebody had recently talked to me about mirroring. And I just said, instead of just say what he's saying, you're having a hard day. And that's all I need to do. And it kind of woke him up out of that pattern of thinking. And then he was able to name a couple things that were hard.
Yeah. Well, and also 2 things happened in that moment for him because sadness, the message of sad or the need of sad is that I need to acknowledge loss. Sadness is kind of the hard one for me because really just talking about it is the thing that makes it better. And I like action, which is why I like anger so much. And I want to do more than just talk about it. But that's what he needed in that moment was just to simply talk about it. And you followed his energy. You didn't resist him. So therefore, you created safety for him. Next time he has a bigger problem, who's he going to come to? We don't realize that we unintentionally, from a good heart, shut our kids down again and again. And then they grow into teenagers. We're like, why don't they talk to me anymore? How did they get into this scenario that was super dangerous for them? Well, it's because they didn't feel safe to come to you. And so, 10 out of 10.
Well, clearly I'm an incredible parent.
Obviously.
And never make any mistakes on that. But it comes from a lot of where I did that. And I still do that sometimes of just like, I want to, my husband and I joke of, we were talking about this ahead of time, is that in Inside Out 2, he identifies as anxiety and I identify as joy. And so we together make up a really good pair, which is what I would argue is one of the morals of that movie, but the whole holistic approach to emotion and everything. And we all need each other and we play different roles. And so he actually was the one, he commissioned an art piece for us that has these 2 that we have on our wall. And we both kind of have a pride in who the other person is for us and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I am that joy. I want to bring joy to the table. And I've done it so often with our kids, not when they're crying, but in those moments of where I feel like they're a little down. I tend to be like, okay, let's go. We got this. Let's go buy a treat. Let's go get a cookie. Things like that. And so I'm trying much more to be in that space of just like mirroring where they are and honoring the emotion that's happening and then allow them to kind of process it for themselves.
I will say I went years without experiencing true joy, especially like the early COVID years, because I was deep in motherhood. I was drowning in lonely, drowning in shame, just drowning in these emotions. And because I was so flooded with them, I truly did not identify joy. And it wasn't until I actually was able to name those emotions, the negative, get the shame out of my body, get the sad out of my body, I can now experience joy. I live in joy now. And so for your son to get that sadness out of his body before he walked in that school, more than likely he was able to walk in there feeling lighter, feeling freer. And so while it's hard as parents when we don't get to experience that joy moment with them, we're giving them the opportunity to be safe, to get what they need out so they can go experience joy.
I love this. This is making me so joyful as we're talking about this now. So for, as we kind of start to wrap this up a little bit, for leaders who are in the space of where they are feeling some burnout, they are feeling some overwhelmed, they're dealing with a lot of emotions, maybe they are in panic mode. What in this moment, what in this day, as they're listening to this, can they do to begin moving forward in this journey?
Right. Well, so we have, if you'll put in the show notes, where they can download our core emotion wheel.
Yes.
And that is the tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created that actually helps us to retrain our brain, what these emotions feel like. And because for a long time, I didn't identify certain emotions. I didn't know what they felt like. So going through the practice of every day with Wes or with my kids or with myself, I go through and I name a time I felt anger that day, a time I felt shame, guilt, and I go through every single emotion and I name the emotion. So therefore, now I know what shame feels like in my body. So when it hits me at 3:00 on a Tuesday afternoon, I know what it is and I can process it in the moment. I mentioned earlier that I was drowning in these emotions, shame and lonely. I still get hit with shame as much today as I did 5 years ago, but it doesn't stay stuck anymore. It happens for about 20 seconds and I can process it out of my body, get to the need, and move on with my day. And so really the retraining of your brain. So your brain can connect to your mouth to say it out loud, process it out. And then also by touching them each day, going through, hurt doesn't feel as hurtful anymore. Like now my husband and I can have an interaction where, 10 years ago, we would be done for weeks. I mean, like, don't even look at me. We're not talking. He can have the same thing now, but the hurt doesn't feel so sharp because I'm so much more comfortable feeling the hurt. So I can have a team member come to me and us have a hard moment, but the hurt doesn't sting as much. We can work through it very quickly and not experience conflict. So yeah, I would say download the core emotion wheel and try it for yourself. Start by journaling or sharing it with your spouse. The best thing you can do for your business is connect at home. We show up at work so dysregulated because we have so much pain at home because we're bringing our pain from work home. And, we got off that sales call, then we got home, we were prickly. And then we get in a fight with our spouse, stay up too late arguing, go back to work the next day, prickly because it's a cycle. But when we can actually learn how to connect with the people that matter most to us, then we can show up in every area of our life and thrive. And that's what the world needs. You talk about how much fear there is in the economy. We have wars that are taking place. We have so much hate and pain right now. But if one person can show up connected and make a home where his kids and his wife or her husband feel safe, and then they can go out and do that with their friends, I genuinely do believe that we can create a different society, starting within our own community. I believe that with my entire being. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I would just hide in my closet all day. But this works. This is the tool.
And thank you for sharing just what you shared today. And thank you for sharing that tool. So we will have that in the show notes. Go download it. Because if we really want to be people who show up as our full selves, and who are able to accomplish a lot and do it in a way that is caring and kind and safe for ourselves and other people, this is the work that we have to do. And when we don't do this work, we end up being the kind of people who diminish others, who hold other people down, and really are less successful in life and in business and everything else because we didn't take the time to pause and identify these emotions, name them, and then allow that the hold that maybe they've had in us to dissipate a little bit, and then move forward in safety and trust and actually be able to get the real work done. Not that this isn't real work, but get the outside work done because we've done that for ourselves and for others. And that's just so important. And so thank you. This is a gift for me, and I know this is a gift for the people listening. And where can people find you?
Yeah, they can find me at connectioncodes.co, where we have our School of Connection. And so maybe you are even saying, I don't even know who could be safe for me. I need deeper help in how to identify these tools. We walk high achievers and entrepreneurs, leaders through this framework where they can get that support, get that safety with each other, because we need to practice how to be safe for ourselves so then we can show up at home and in our offices being safe.
And say that website one more time.
Connectioncodes.co.
Well, I encourage everybody to go there. Keep doing the work. Keep doing the work yourself. Thank you for all of this and for being so open with all of us. And I'm so excited about what everybody's going to experience after listening to this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, that conversation was such a gift for me, and I know it was a gift for you. And if you are interested in downloading that core emotion wheel and really beginning to identify and name the emotions that maybe are driving some of the behaviors that you want to address in your own life and in your team, you can actually go to connectioncodes.co/Badass Softie, and you can download it there. And you can also listen to Tera's podcast, which is Connection Codes. And she is an unbelievable speaker and coach. She can come talk to your team. I mean, just dive in. So, what I'm taking away from today, there's so many things. My brain is spinning, but I think two of the things I'm really taking away from today is one, being able to name emotions and really the core emotion that's driving things, because there are so many times in my life that I'm feeling anxiety or I feel maybe even shame, or anger, but that may not be the root of what is creating that in me. And if I can, what I learned today and what I'm going to dive into learning even more is if I can name that core emotion, then maybe it will open things up for me to be able to not only work with that emotion and move forward with that emotion, but also release me from maybe my lack of sleep that I'm having or the conflict that I'm having with my spouse that has nothing to do with what's going on in that moment. It might impact my energy, all of the things that can allow me to move forward. I think it's so important to name that. And that's the thing I'm going to be moving forward and working on. The other thing is just the mirroring, I think. So that's for myself. What I want to work on is naming those emotions. But when I show up as a leader for other people, I want to lead with mirroring and understanding the emotion versus trying to fix it and move forward and bringing people to joy first and foremost, which I always love doing, but really just mirroring that emotion for them and creating a safe space. And if I can do both of those things, work on myself and show up in a different way for other people, I'm not only going to hopefully become a better leader and become better at accomplishing things, but also just enjoy life a little bit more and be more free. So to close us out, I would like to leave you with this. May you come to see every emotion as a gift, an inner compass pointing you towards what truly matters. May you find the courage to name what you feel both within yourself and before others, so the heavy things, they lose their grip and the beautiful things begin to shine a little bit more. And may you lead with such honesty and vulnerability that your team grows stronger, your business flourishes, and your influence creates a world where we can all bring our full selves to the table. Because we believe that you can be both ambitious and kind, fun and driven, powerful and deeply human. Your leadership can inspire, your success can have soul, and your ambition can make space for everyone. That's why you're a Badass Softie. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. BadassSoftie.com is crafted by Fruitful Design and Strategy.